Hi, Utsav, and hi, audience.
Hi,
Hello,
Hariom.
thanks for joining, Utsav. I like how you joined right on the next opportunity after getting to know about it. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
so I'll take 1 minute to describe the scenario, and then I'll give the mic to you. So
Sure,
I
sure.
started this activity since almost like 25 days back to talk to some almost like 30 people like myself. I wanted to learn from live experiences. It's been a long time after COVID. People have been not been in very much in touch, right? So this is how I found a method to interact with people like myself and learn. And I have been writing about the conversations as a theory of kind of, you can call it a research topic. I've written 5 articles on the topic, and I think I will be writing more, maybe 50 more in next 5-10 years. This is a long term project, so it's about conversations. I believe in the concept of live, actually not live but conversations, right? So when two people are talking, there's a lot of things around that, right? Those two are aligning on some particular energies and goals, and there's a lot, right? So I
Yeah,
started
definitely.
25 days back with a goal of 30. We are doing 8 today, and I still believe I can do some 30 by the 31st of August. It's a challenge. So we know the first question is always the same. Utsav, you'll take 5 minutes to talk about yourself, your stories, your aspirations, and everything you have. Over to
Sure,
you.
Hariom. So maybe I can start with, you know, after I graduated in computer science, I started in 2009 with development work at a company called Kony in Hyderabad, and I really enjoyed the phase from 2009 to 2013, where I was working like as an applications developer, and thereafter I went for an MBA, and I moved into the product role. And Utopia Mobile in Gurgaon was my first product role, where I managed a dating application called Woo. And post that, I moved to Make My Trip, and Make My Trip was an experience where I saw like a huge scale. We all know about the company and lot of customers. So I was a part of the search landing team, and over there, optimize the search experience, like right from what do we need to show to someone who searches in Google and other search engines, right? And after Make My Trip, I moved to Bangalore, and I started in a startup called The Better India. I built their entire e-commerce platform called The Better Home, and the company got acquired. So that was a successful exit, and after that, I moved to another company called 24/7 AI. So this was my first experience with a B2B kind of enterprise SaaS kind of product, and really enjoyed the team, working with the team and the company. And over there, I was responsible for a product called Card Designer. So this was in a very simple word, it's like a form building tool. But of course, being an enterprise product, there's a lot of internal integrations and architecture that comes into play. So one of the important things that I did over there was to revamp the entire tool and make it more user friendly. And then from there, I've moved currently into a startup called Aapka Painter. Over here, I am pretty much heading the product management function, and like we have been one of the pioneers of using Truecaller to retrieve the phone numbers. So one of the things that we do at Aapka Painter is to to generate the leads. So whoever is interested in a particular painting work, we they would come to our website, and then we would want to get their credentials as soon as possible. So in order to solve this business problem, right, one of the things that I stumbled upon was that Truecaller has an API. So what it can do is it can get fetch the user's phone number, of course, with the user's consent, And it's automated, it's free, and it actually led to us doubling the lead conversion. So that is pretty much my journey so far. So yeah.
Interesting. So I'll consider it done. Although there was one more maybe minute. So I like the last. I'd like to take the cue from the last pointer, right? The painter. So what? Tell me about the business problem again, maybe.
So the company, we are into the painting world, right? So it's like a brand where you hire them for the painting work, waterproofing work, right?
Right.
So one of the business problem is the discovery.
Hmm.
So how do we generate, how do we ensure that more and more people know about us? And then within that, one of the sub problems would be that the getting the mobile number and the name and the city, right, are the three key data points that we need for in order to reach someone. Maybe we can send them a call, we can send them a WhatsApp message, right? And then from there we then there, from there there is the entire journey of someone visiting the house for the inspection, and then actual painting work starting. We have color consulting experts within the company. So this is like the entire suite of what is required for you to get like an awesome painting work done, and also maybe decorate your house with wallpaper textures. So that's where we are positioned as the company. And of course, like every company has an acquisition problem to be solved, right? I want more customers, and I want the customers to be acquired at a lower cost. So within that problem space, right, one of the things that you can do is how can we use product to increase the website conversion, right? So so from there, right, one of the things that you could think of, like I thought was that, okay, what is the main thing, the main problem that we are trying to solve as a company is that how do we extract the user's phone number, right, from their device. And since we have the technology, so as like one of the statistics that I while I was doing the research, right, in order to get this implemented, one of the statistics I stumbled upon was that there's a huge base for Truecaller in India, right? And if there is an Android device, they are highly likely to have like a Truecaller installed in their mobile, right? And
Right.
since we are catering to the Indian market, and most of our traffic now, like 90% of our traffic is coming from the mobile device, and out of that mobile, the majority chunk is the Android mobile, right? So why not use this API? There's no extra cost, and you will get more number of customers. And it's like uh, you know uh, uh, it's good for the business because you're getting more number of customers. It's good for the customers as well because you don't need to, typing your entire 10-digit mobile number is a painful process.
Right.
Although you have like Google Forms or auto save, but all those things are already there. But still, sometimes it get misfilled in a different box and all those things. So definitely it's easier for the customer. And also one of the nuances to this is that if you do a Truecaller validation, you don't need like an OTP validation again, because
Right.
it is just fetch, that number is fetched from the customer's device.
Right.
So the customer is already authenticated, and then down the funnel you can some like the company might faces the problem of having like incorrect number, right? People sharing wrong number, or that number not
Right.
working. So all that problem is resolved because of this Truecaller validation.
So if I try to understand this, people are visiting your website, and from there you are asking them for their phone numbers.
So the flow works like this. If someone, let's say, searches for one of the keywords, let's say painter near me, right? And we have one of the SEO pages that rank, and the user would click on the Aapka Painter SEO page, and they visit on our website, of course, on a mobile device and Android. Then after 5 seconds, we show them a pop-up which says continue with Truecaller.
Mm-hmm.
right? and
Okay.
and of course there are some benefits also added, that you'll have a free home inspection and all those things. So once the customer says yes, then we get a permission to generate that API and get the phone number from the customer's device. So we take care of complete care of the privacy, but at the same time we ask for the permission.
Interesting. So, if I now understand the user journey, right now I can visualize what exactly is happening at least the user's end. Now I can understand what you are doing at the back end to get the things done, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so you fire the API, you get their permission with the number with the permission. Interesting. So now this thing can be used by any other business, right? Anybody can use it. You anywhere, maybe you next time you're going to work on something interesting like this, right? Have an opportunity, you will for sure you'll use it on the day one, right?
Well, yes. The nuance to this is that there are a lot of companies which are building the apps. So if you use, like, if you try to log in via Flipkart or several other companies in India, they are
Right,
already using the Flipkart SDK. Sorry, the Truecaller SDK.
right.
But in this particular case, we have used the web version of the SDK, which is like one of the few companies. And definitely, if the use cases is allowing me to implement this particular enhancement, why not? Like,
Mhm.
should be considering to use this.
Of course. uh, Give me a second to grab this. So now let's maybe take a step back, right? I got a new kind of understanding that where growth hacks could be used, like something like that, right?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's talk about storytelling as a PM, right? We have been into into this this domain, I would say, since some 5 7 years, right? How many years you've been into as a serious official PM role?
So my first PM role was in 2015.
Hmm.
Since then, I've worked as different kind of PM roles.
Great. Um, what I was trying to ask you was, I think I so talking about the journeys, the definitions. So, something exciting, very one of the key stories of your life, of the product management journey. So from 2015 till today, one story that you would like to share.
I think there's a lot of stories. It has been very exciting journey. And one of my first, as I mentioned, one of my first experiences was managing the dating application,
Hmm.
and understanding the dating landscape of India, and you know uh, trying to understand the users, what their preferences are, what is the state of the Indian market.
Hmm.
From that perspective was very interesting for us. We had like a lot of unique insights. Initially what happened was that we were like a curated dating platform where we allowed only the users with a valid Facebook profile. But then we saw that the number of male versus female ratio is highly skewed towards the male. And although we had a lot of genuine female users, but some of them were skeptical in adding their photograph in the first iteration of the usage.
Right.
So we eased out a little bit on the algorithm, and we allowed the female folks to have like just get into the system and generate more trust. And at some point, we gave them certain like incentive, that okay, if you add your photograph, you'll get better matches and stuff like that. And that enabled us to let the female users also use the platform in a safe way, and also at some point be comfortable enough to start adding their profile pictures and stuff like that. So that was
Really
very interesting.
interesting domain that is, dating online dating till today is still right. Everybody is trying to solve it in a new
Yeah,
way.
yeah, true.
Um, I had this thought back in 2015, I think, somewhere, uh, talking about dating, right? So the voice call functionality was not really available until that point, right? In general apps, right? I was thinking like, why not allow them to talk to each other, right? Or the way they want. Let them decide. Don't push them to add too much content, right? Pictures, this, that. No, let them talk. That
Right.
like a stranger talks, right? That's what kind of activity I'm doing right now, is talking to strangers. So I have this revelation. So I let's talk about research. So you been through these activities. You also talked about some data, how you decided to do so, take some actions, right? Now research. How deep you have planned your research activities in your career? If I can ask that way.
You are talking about the user research and like the problem discovery phase side of things.
Technically, yes. That's what research would mean. I mean by that.
Sure, sure. So I think like user research is definitely super critical in building any product. I think but the caveat that I want to call out here is that maybe uh, you know start with a business problem actually.
Hmm.
Don't understand the business priority first, business goals, and what your business is trying to achieve, and then translate that space. Like if let's suppose in an e-commerce setup, right, your business is trying to increase the first order activation, so translate that space into a user problem. So step one would be to understand the business problem and the goals, and then step two would be to break down that problem. In e-commerce, one of the ways is to have that funnel kind of breakup, right, and understand that at each stage of the funnel what is the drop off, and then if you see like a bigger drop off at one particular stage, you try to further break down into further nuance number of steps, right? So that is how you kind of break down a particular problem and try to really pinpoint like of like what exactly, where exactly the data says, right? So this is like one part of the research, but then at some point you would also want to start doing qualitative research, right? So maybe you can segment. Let's say there's a particular in an let's say in an e-commerce setup, right? There's a particular point where there are a lot of users who are dropping off. Maybe they are not able to move ahead. They don't know how to add in cart, hypothetical scenario.
Right.
So talk to both kind of segments. Talk to the segment of users who are dropping off, and
Hmm.
also talk to the segment of users who are able to complete their goal. And also be a bit nuanced in when you are talking, in a sense that if also try to not just look at the funnel, right? Look at the funnel and then try to break down that funnel with different parameters. Maybe device could be one thing, operating system could be one thing, geography,
You
on the
said
basis of the
you
city.
said two types of users, right? One
Yeah.
who are able to do things, one who are not able
Yeah.
to. Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
So uh, first you have broken down the problem. Now you have, once you've got a particular problem, try to further break it down with respect to the segments. So sometimes the business has already defined the segment, right?
Right.
So use that. I think that is quite helpful, and then see that what is that user segment where there is a maximum number of drop-offs, right, versus what is that user segment who is able to complete. Talk to both of them, and then try to contrast like why some certain segments were not able to do this, why certain segments were able to complete this, right? And that is where like the in the research phase, right, you will start gathering into certain key insights.
Hmm.
One of the key insights could be that users are price sensitive,
Hmm.
n number of like that. Every product manager, when they go deep, they will be finding those key insights, right? And that is where you start defining the problem. And also one other thing that I want to call out is that in the phase of defining the problem, right, don't be like bounded by the problem statement that you get, right? There's something called like reframing the problem, right? That
Hmm.
I want to not just think in this particular way, but also try to inverse this, or try to
Yeah.
there's something called upstream thinking, right? That okay, if this is what is happening, if I just take a step back and zoom out and think like why this thing actually happened, like
Right.
if there's price sensitive, right? Why exactly are they price sensitive, right? Do things like upstream thinking, do things like reframing the problem, but the overall objective is to really, really be able to articulate the problem. That should be like the outcome of the research, in a way that, at the end should be tied back to the business goal. So that is how, my take on what how you should do the research.
Hmm. Interesting. Uh, so I like how you connected the dots from research to everything else and back to research. That's the very structured way of thinking like a product manager. Uh, so coming back to the topics, talking about research, could you talk about some events in your career where you talked to the end user and they you got to reveal a lot of new learnings which you did not expect, or
Yeah,
anything, any
so
conversations with the the end users?
yeah, so you want me to quote certain examples?
Yeah, some, yeah, if possible, like a
Yeah,
story. So
definitely.
please.
Yeah, definitely. So talking to users is like a part of my calendar every week, to be frank.
Okay. Okay.
And there are like n number of examples, but maybe I would just illustrate, how that helped the business,
Hmm.
and in the larger context, how does that fit in. So
Hmm.
I'll take an example of the my previous company, where again, as I said, I was part of the revamping exercise of this tool called Card Designer, with an objective of increased adoption. Now, little bit of a background, like why exactly this increase our adoption mattered was because this particular feature is what the generally the competitors didn't have, and we wanted to enhance the usability of this feature so that we can position it as one of the differentiators when our customers will do their own competition, their own research, right? We will be
Right.
differentiated. so
Right.
so that was like that this is why this was super critical. And then in order to do this right, like one of the things that I did was that I started talking to my actual users, so within the enterprise, within the large enterprises, right? The actual employees who would be using, who would be building these cards for certain use cases, right? And try to understand, right? Like again, as I said, right, people who are able to complete the job
Hmm.
relatively faster, like let's say they're within 5 minutes they are able to build a card, versus
Okay.
people who are not being able to build a card with certain assistance. And then that was like a high level kind of like a guiding light. But within that, right, there were several nuances, like there were n number of types of card. A card could be used for a payment, for a information gathering, and blah blah blah. So what was those kind of cards? So were there cards which was easier to build versus tough to build? And from there I gathered an insight that okay, majority of my enterprise users, right, are not able to completely build certain payment cards without any assistance. Like we internally we had a team called a product support group, and they were readily available to help out our enterprises. But without the assistance of product support group, the end customers were not able to kind of create that card. And then I went deep into it. I each and every step broke down those steps and tried to figure out like what exactly, where they're not able to do, what are the backend configurations, right? And then those that is where that was like one of the examples where I really got those key insights that okay, there are like, since the product itself had certain legacy, and it came like from a particular architecture, right? So one of the products got acquired, and due to which the configuration part was what was bit challenging. So that became a key insight into the solutioning phase, where we I worked with the designer to ensure that the configuration of the different feature. Let's say in the payment use case, right, I would want to configure like an API. So it
Hmm.
should be pretty intuitive. And if there is a stage where beyond a certain point you need someone to help you out, it should be very easy to call out. That should notify the exact person who is supposed to help you out, rather than
Right.
every time reaching out to that your customer support, right, or your
Hmm. Manager.
account manager, right, and then that person routing you to a product support individual.
Right.
Why can't you directly connect with them, maybe have a chat, maybe quickly resolve the issue. So
Right.
that is how I've that entire, right from articulating the problem to gathering those key insights to using that in a solution to enhance the experience.
Interesting. Uh, how you connected these. So there's a lot that you must have like, learned from those experiences, right? Um, from payments to e-commerce to you started from you started from I think I wrote also. Yeah, you also worked on search results. So about search, I have noted this point down. I wanted to ask you, uh, how do you think the search is going to impact the painter business when the Google will and the search scenario will change, using the AI these days.
So
Impact on the
the
search engine optimization, right? We expect some because Google is going to give the answers. So results like, people around me, businesses around me might be also impacted. I don't
so
know.
you are saying, like, as a business, how do we prepare for
Yes.
something like, something like the GPT, chat GPT, coming in, and the
Let
AI
me
tools.
frame it. Let me frame it. So it's like the shift in the search habits of people, right? How that can impact the search engine businesses who depend on the search engine optimization, or yeah, like that. Google.
Sure, sure. So my take on it would be that I think if you talk about shift in the search habit, right? I think one of the immediate threats, we can say, or opportunity, we can say, is the chat incoming of the chat GPT, and generally, the advancements in the artificial intelligence, which wherein new companies, or maybe we can say the older companies, are using this new tech to challenge the dominance of Google, I can say. And maybe Google is also in parallel evolving with a lot of artificial intelligence. So definitely it is both a threat and an opportunity to our business. And I think in this new era of artificial intelligence, one of the things that we are gearing up for is like, how can we ensure that the content that we are generating keeps on getting fresh, and so that irrespective of the search engine, right, at the end of the day, any kind of artificial intelligence would mine your content. And if the content is relevant to what the users are searching, they would definitely prioritize your content. So how can we keep the content fresh and keep the content refreshing, and use the technology and use the uh, things like productization, right, of such kind of activities. Let me explain this with an example. So recently, what has been talk of the town is that LinkedIn is experimenting with this kind of feature, wherein they are using their network to create certain threads. So let's say, for example, there is a particular thread. Let's say, what is product management, right? So what LinkedIn will do is it will use the artificial intelligence to seed certain content of, let's say, at a high level, this is what the generative AI is answering for this question. But then LinkedIn is leveraging its experts, like
Hmm.
people who are the expert in this particular field. They would start answering to those questions, and every answer becomes like a user generated content. So
Right.
we are discussing on building something similar in our company as well, wherein how can we initiate a conversation with generative AI, but then start uh, taking the part of our customers, and the internally, there are so many employees that experts within the company who can start contributing to this content engine. And of course, having a great content which is being refreshed continuously is great for any kind of search engines, and the new trends that are shaping up in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I like how the conversation uh, dived towards the artificial intelligence. Uh, there, you raised one point that you are also building something like uh, how do you engage with the with chat, right? I missed. Can you explain that again, if is possible?
Yes, yes, definitely. We are using the chat gpt, right, and other generative ai tools to kind of create that initial content, right? Because
Mhm.
if there is a
Okay.
particular topic related to painting, right? Let's say there are a lot of technicalities in the waterproofing space,
Right.
right? So what if we start with a certain seed content which
Hmm.
is generated from the search engine, and then help our experts internally within the company, and also our customers who have had a particular experience to gather that reviews and expert content, and then start building that user generated content that continuously gets refreshed.
Sure.
um, One of the other things also we are trying to experiment with is that how can we use the generative ai to summarize the reviews. So maybe one of the customers gave us like a very long review, or lot of content, right? How
Hmm.
can we summarize that for our new customers so that
Hmm.
it is helpful and enabling them to take a call upon certain technicalities
Right.
around waterproofing, painting, grouting. So those
Right.
are the things in progress.
Interesting. So there's a lot of experimentation going on, right? Uh, with experimentation, if I can specifically ask you, do you define the end goal of the experiment first and then do start the experimentation, or you keep on iterating with the as the flow with the flow?
Mm, so, you mean to say that what is the process of setting up a particular product experiment, right?
Kind of, yes. So what do you think about that planning part of the experiment? Because each feature is technically is an experiment, right? We assume that it might result in some user experience improvement. It might lead to some more business. It might lead to some lot of assumptions around that, right? So how do you plan your experiments? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, yeah. So, so my take and then my approach to experimentation is, like, even before you go to a particular experiment, right? You have to like think through that product management process, right? Wherein always be start with the business problem, right? Start with the business goals, what the business is trying to achieve,
Hmm.
and in the entire process, like typically starts with the problem understanding and validation, and then solution understanding, right, and then solution validation. So in this entire process there are experiments that are set up at each of the phases, right? So
Right.
something as similar as simple as sending a survey
Hmm.
to bunch of customers could be like an experiment. Something as
Exactly.
simple as creating a human prototype, like just talk to me, and I'm there, right? So it sounds very rudimentary, but yeah, that is also an experiment. So this would like, so my approach is that how can I enable my business to minimize the risk, and
Hmm.
the initial part of the setting up so many experiments is with the risk of whether this problem is worth solving, and whether it is worth solving now,
Hmm.
right? So that is where all this user surveys and talking to customers and all those things come. But then assuming that this problem is big enough, and we want to build something like a solution, again, it as you said, right, I completely agree that it is always an experiment, right? Your first version, you can call it version 1, you can call it like an MVP. So think through, start with your business goal, think through what you can build with a small amount of tech effort, right? And at the same time be very meticulous in defining those metrics, and then execute that in less amount of time, and start analyzing, like start understanding those metrics, evaluating those metrics, and based on the metrics, right, the metrics will give you the flavor of actual user behavior. No amount of talking to the user can enable you to really take that call. So at a high level, right, that is the framework of how to think through setting up a particular experiment, and how, like, why would you even care about setting up an experiment, right, as a PM. And once you have, like, once you start with a hypothesis, you set up an experiment, you either validate or invalidate your hypothesis, and assuming that you have validated that your hypothesis, right, then you double down. So now you deploy more resources, you try to pitch the same feature maybe to more set of customers. In these bigger companies, you would want to scale it to the 10%, 50% of the customers. And so that is the another phase that comes in. So yeah, that is my approach to the experimentation part. And of course, I would just want to add, like, things like A/B testing, right? And there are several. There's a multivariate testing also. So these all are just the tools of how you can approach a particular experimentation. But first, you should be clear about the basics of why does the experimentation matter, and what do you really need to understand in an experiment.
Sure. Let's try to break the monotony, maybe, right? Um, Let me share my one short quick story where I had been talking to users for the first time in my career, maybe not really first. So where I learned a lot. So back in 2020, where I joined a small organization of 5-10 people. That was a kids app for learning the rhymes and ABCs and 1 2 3. Okay, so it was a small team. We were remote because it was COVID, right? For obvious reasons. So nobody knew each other much. We started. So I started, day-to-day activities. What are you, what are your goals? What are you doing? So I was given very specific goals by the founders. I was supposed to take care of the day-to-day execution, of course, and improve the onboarding funnel of the product. That was first for my career. So I was not. So this, I did not take care of that activity in depth that way. Maybe that was the first time I got access to Clever Tap, the and Google Analytics for mobile apps. So it was also my first time to look at the data like that. So it was literally a movie, picture of the life story of the end user. So when they download the app, then what happened, then what happened, then what happened. It's a step by step action wise life story, like what exactly happened during the usage of the first few hours of usage of the product. um, and I looked at one profile and looked at 10 profiles. I was like, okay, I can see what is happening at scale now, right? Then I looked at funnels, like onboarding funnel. People download the app, people then input the phone number, then OTP, then OTP gets submitted, then they land the homepage. What we figured from there was, if so, I'm talking about maybe some data. So 100 people downloaded the app, only 20 people were able to reach the home screen. They did not even, most of them did not reach the home screen. So there's a action, intentional download activity, of the app. Now, if you're downloading it, I assume, right? You're trying to log in now. So if you don't log in, what is happening behind the screen? There's a huge drop off in each step of onboarding. I was like, okay, let me talk to some of them. Right? I called them. So I figured that some of the parents did not even know that there is a that app in their phone, because the kids downloaded it from some ads randomly, right? So we people because the organization used to run the ads. Okay. So now it happened. So people had the app, but they did not know. That was one type of the users. Some of them were like, okay, so you talked about talk to people who are able to do this and talk to people who are not able to do this, right? So I was talking to people who were able to log in and who were able to use it. Now I had some talks with people who were not able to log in. Right? I was like, what exactly happened when you were trying to log in? I figured that there they said it has expired. So I don't know something. Their trial has expired. I was like, okay, I wanted to actually ask for the screenshot of the error, right? But asking that from the end user by calling them felt weird. I tried to figure out what could be the error at that screen. Then I after trying to log in by myself after 10 times, 20 times. So I literally asked my technology team, to delete my account every time I sign up, so that I can sign up again, so that I can get to know what is possibly happening. After randomly doing it for some times, one of the times I got an error. It just vanished also. Okay, I need to do it again. I did it few more times. Then I tried to decrease the speed of the internet. Then we figured, so root cause. Let me jump to the root cause now, right? Um, the onboarding flow of the app, right? The logic of the onboarding flow was little flawed. So if the server, if I download the app, I try to log in because in remote areas the internet speed is low. That's again my hypothesis after I built, after I went through that journey. Hypothesis was that, so after they try to log in, the server, the internet connection drops. So the phone number has been input, but OTP has not been generated. Now they know the OTP, they have input the OTP, but now they are not connected. So server is taking time to get the response from the phone. At the end, what is
And
happening
was
is that,
OTP like a mandatory step?
yes, so without OTP was, did not allow login. Now, that's a good catch there, but it did not move forward. So I tried to do it by myself. Let me fail the internet connection after trying to input my OTP. Then we checked it with the technology team. They figured out the root cause. They resolved it, and suddenly, after on the after controlled rollout and then overall rollout of the app, we literally saw the results on day one. It's like more people were able to reach the home screen as often as expected, right? Though the technology team, I would say, we were remote. They were also like some, I would say, beginners. So what happened is that error kept on coming even after that they said the logic has been resolved. It should not be occurring. So even in the new versions, it used to occur, but I could not pinpoint to them because again there are a lot of business priorities and goals and everyday responsibilities. And the client was who was supposed sponsoring the all the game, I would say, was had their own priorities. Anyway, uh, yeah. So what happened at the end? It did not go anywhere. After a few months only, the organization decided to shut it down. But I learned a lot into CleverTap, the whole system of data analytics from the app. What can we check now? I call myself a freelancer for Clever Tap, at least officially everywhere in my accounts. I posted that. So whenever somebody is trying to implement Clever Tap like systems, I can be the planning person behind that to get started. I
Great.
also got some conversations with the clients, possible clients, but it went anyway. Uh, so about you, let's come back to you. Why should I be? Talking about you, let's talk some numbers. Maybe what is the biggest user base you have worked with? Number of DAU, let's say.
I think the biggest user base clearly has been during my stint at Make My Trip. So we had like just to give you a sense, like around 300 million visits on the search landing page in a particular year. So that was
Right.
definitely at scale. Yeah, I think by and far make my trip is the
That's a number. That's a number I can only dream about because my biggest number has been very close to like 50,000. There in Pine Labs, one of the times, of course, it has huge scale. The numbers were huge, but I could not get access to much of the data and projects. It was all remote, right? I could not even get to know the what is fintech. I could not understand how the payments work. It 6 months went by, and it's like no, it's not going anywhere. So because the learning curve required to support a financial technology system remotely for the first time after learning everything that is required to do the needful, of course, was overwhelming for the organization also. I can understand now. It was kind of understandable. Okay. uh, Numbers, let me try to look at my notes. Maybe I some business decisions you made using data based decisions, I would say. You're planning, you wanted to plan your next maybe 3 months, quarter, right? Whatever the goal is defined now, you decided something based on some particular data, some particular example of the story. So story, of course, possible.
So you are saying like how did I take the decisions, product decisions based on the looking at the data, right?
I'm looking for a particular story, if possible.
Yeah, I think looking at the data is like week, definitely multiple times a week, if not every day.
Mhm.
And like one of like there are several critical calls that I've made using looking at the data. I think maybe let me pull out a story of the stint at the Better India, where
Mhm.
I built the e-commerce from ground up. So we were experimenting with something called experiences. So it works like this. The user would search for something like one of the experiences, maybe let's say hydroponic workshop, right, in Bangalore. And then they would land on our experiences page, where we show a bouquet of experiences and what are the workshops that we have. And that from there is a purchase where you book the particular experience, and then you are supposed to show up at that particular venue in order to get the training or to get that particular experience. So in that particular flow, one of the things that we were having was that after the users were landing, they the drop off was very high, the conversion was pretty low. And after looking at the data and also doing some of qualitative understanding, I came to know that users are only looking for hydroponic workshops in proximity of their city. Like they will prefer in their city in most of the cases. But if it is another city, let's say if there is a user in Bangalore, at a max they would want to go to Pondicherry to attend a particular event. But in most of the cases, a Bangalore guy won't go to Delhi to attend this kind of event. So with using this particular insight based on the data, what I did was that I segmented the entire not just hydroponic but all the kind of workshop that we had based on the location. And we detected the user's location based on their IP. So if let's say there is a particular user who is visiting from Delhi, so we would want to prioritize the Delhi, definitely the Delhi hydroponic and the NCR hydroponic, but also a city like Chandigarh, right, would be having a greater proximity to Delhi. So we would show, and then later on we will definitely show the other ones. And similarly for let's say Bangalore or Mumbai, we will show, for a Mumbai person we will show the Pune ones, Mumbai, then Pune, and then the other ones. So this led to like almost two to three times the jump,
Hmm.
right? So we were like around 1.5 to 2% conversion, and that shot up to around 5.5, 5 to 5.5% conversion rate on that page just because of this insight. So yeah, that was one area where I used the data.
Interesting. So, the impact, right? The very clear 5-10% of the activities. How the data was used to actually decide what to show, right? Was that the business decision, like what to show? Was that uh, a one sprint software cycle activity, or it was like expanded over a quarter or maybe year to build
So
build up?
definitely it was not like a year, it was much less than that. And the once we had this insight, right, we started running multiple experiments.
Hmm.
So as I said, one experiment was to look at a particular intent,
Hmm.
right? Another experiment was with looking at a particular city.
Right.
And out of the several experiments, this was the one which stood out with the highest ROI. So yeah, so it was a shorter sprints. Like within one sprint, we used to at least complete the development work for one experiment.
Mhm.
But with multiple iterations, we came up to a point where we thought that okay, now we are getting a much better conversion, and you know the now we're at some point. Like definitely there are next steps to go, but yeah, that is
Right.
one milestone that we achieved.
Interesting. And again, experimentation. There's a lot inside that, right? I don't even know how to talk about experimentation very structurally for this let's say conversation, but I wanted to do that. Let me do this sometime later maybe. So today, let me go back to some things. Experimentation we have talked about, right? In
Yeah.
So I actually forget my questions in between, and that's what breaks the flow sometimes. But something you have to share about in your career, that when you now, I also saw your LinkedIn profile's vision. You might want to talk about that.
Yeah. I definitely, I think, my there's a personal vision statement, and I am highly fascinated with the technology and what it can do for the humanity, right? For the individuals, for the businesses. And I think that is what is reflecting in my LinkedIn as well. You know, what recently in one of the Microsoft seminars, right? Mr. Satya Nadella, gave a very inspiring speech where he said, "Why do we build? Right? Why does technology exist in the first place? It is because of humans, and it is because we want to have like a better life. And products are, products which are built with technology are doing exactly the same, right? It's every product that you use, you are trying to become a better version of yourself.
Of course.
So yeah, I think that is the personal vision that I have, and really excited every day to look forward as to how we can impact. And one of the other inspiring thing is that 100 years down, if we look at 500 years ago, right, even the kings were not experiencing certain kind of technology or that kind of lifestyle where a common man is able to afford today, and that is has happened because of technology.
Of course.
So I think that is a very exciting journey.
Sure. Are you a big fan of like reading books and all also?
Yeah, yeah,
What
I definitely read a lot of books.
Which book you last read you want to talk about?
So I think Competition Demystified is one book which is immensely valuable, especially for the product leaders who really want to build something that enables their business to really get an edge. Apart from that, if like for the product building stuff, I think Hooked is one great book. Design of Everyday Things is another great book, and in fact there are 3 4 books by Don Norman, which all of them are talking about different aspects of design. So I think those couple of books are very nice. Yeah, I think these are the ones I can recall right now.
I see you have some inclination towards design, right?
So yeah, so in fact, in my first role when I was a developer, also I was like a application developer and also spent a lot of time designing the front end.
Hmm.
And that led me to having curiosity about the UI UX when I landed into a product job.
Hmm.
So though that was like the initial phase, but after when I read about Don Norman and design of everyday things, I started appreciating, the day-to-day products, right? And
Right.
as Steve Jobs says, right, that design is not just about the interface; it's about how it works and how it solves the problem of a user. So, yeah, I think now, like since of last 2 3 years, I've started having more and more appreciation of the products around me, and how it solves the problem, what kind of patterns are used. So yeah, I think design is one area where really get fascinated.
Interesting. And you know what? So A/B testing experiments again. Design. There is a lot of things around design. I may not be again want to do that. One quick question about let's say let me give you a specific example. I'm building with my friend. It's a smart water bottle. That's literally a bottle which will stand on your table, but it blinks like a table lamp, an alarm to remind you to drink water. Now,
Great.
that's the experience and we are talking about, right? It's a bottle that blinks at the bottom. So, who the bottle is almost plastic and glass, so it will blink like that. Uh, its visibility, of course, is one part, and because it has water, right? So, because there are apps in our phones which remind us to do drink water, but again, it's an app at the end of the day. So we are trying to experiment with the possibility of people focusing more on health and talking about bottle as a reminder. Uh, so now what I have in my head, because it's still in production, it is we have not sold any part of it, right? Its use is, how do we customize let the end user customize the actual alarms of, let's say, half an hour, 2 hour, or 3 hours, right? That was a little complex part. We had to go through at, I would say, maybe 3 4 iterations of actually printing the hardware, then uh, figuring out, no, this doesn't seem to be working very well. It took me us almost like more than 1.5 years. So that was in user experience journey, user design, product design part, where after, because we were not hardware engineers, we were software engineers. If we had to do it to build an app, we could have done it in 2 months, 3 months, right? We could have spent days and nights, but it was hardware. We had to depend on industry to give us the product and work with them with their own schedules to give us something what we want.
True,
It was
true.
difficult to deal with the local but businesses, I would say.
Yeah, this
So
is
that
super interesting actually. I would definitely be your customer because that has been one of my problems of not drinking enough water. And recently I came up with one of the health experts who suggested that you should drink at least 4 liters of water. So
yeah.
if that can be like, there could be a way where I get reminded and of how much water I drink, and if that data could also be like synced into one of
Yeah.
the servers where I keep track of my patterns
Just going
around
to
the
take
drinking
one drink.
behavior, it will
Yeah.
be very very helpful.
That's on the roadmap.
Yeah,
But yes,
yeah, true, true.
so yeah, we are working on it. Um, Coming
Great.
back about planning, I wanted to talk about your quarterly planning, you know, structures or maybe OKRs. How you worked with maybe, things like that. The quarterly planning or the OKRs.
So you want me to explain the process of setting the product roadmap, right? Like a roadmap
Let's
would be
say
like.
quarterly planning,
Mhm.
quarterly planning structures or how you do that.
Great, great. Sure. So the quarterly planning, right? first of all, like it would be the plan. It would be like a part of the larger planning exercise, right? So there are like quarterly plannings, there are like annual plans, and there are like what is supposed to be done within a month, something like that, right? So there are like several approaches. I think it's very nuanced to the kind of organization that you work in.
Right.
Let's suppose my current organization is more like in a startup mode right now, and something that works here would maybe a different approach in a company like Make My Trip. One of the approaches that I take is definitely before the planning exercise starts, right? Always start with the business goal. Try to understand with your CEO, with the business stakeholders, to as to what the business is trying to achieve in the next quarter, right? Or maybe next 6 months to 1 year. And based on that, try to translate the business strategy and the vision into a product strategy and the vision. So if assuming that the product strategy, vision strategy is in place, now it comes down to a quarterly plan. So quarterly plan would be a part of the prioritization exercise. So one, let's say, if we break it down into an objective and key results format. So one of the objective could be to, let's say, increase the lead conversion ratio, right? And then key results would be like, how do we measure? Like if I say that there's like the current conversion is improved by X percentage, right? So that could be like one of the key results that I want to measure. Now this is the OKR for this quarter, let's suppose. So now within that, the planning exercise would be like go broad and go deep, right? So in the first stage, I would want to work with my team to really come up with a lot of ideas and come up with a lot of gaps. So lot like what are the those customer problems, what are those gaps in the journey, right? And try to prioritize them, and try to find that top, like the 20%, right, which will give me the 80% of the results, and have that aligned in this particular quarter, right? So that is like one way of doing things, which is little bit more aligned to relatively larger companies or companies which have more stable forecast. But in a startup environment, things have to be more dynamic. You have to be more agile, and you have to be more responding to your competition. So in this kind of environment, what I prefer is more like a format of now, next, later. So this kind of planning would ensure that, okay, I have clear visibility on what I'm going to do now, in a sense, what are the next two sprints going to look like, and then what am I going to do next. So next would be like the another 2 months, which now and next would comprise of this particular quarter. But I'm rigid on now, I'm rigid on now, but I'm a bit flexible on next. So maybe my things in my plan could get prioritized or deprioritized as I execute and have more learnings about the customer, right? And then there is something called later. So later are the ones which are aligned to the larger business strategy, because definitely the CEO will have some vision of where he wants to be in the next 2 3 5 years, and the later ones will be aligned to those, and those will be more like a directional. Like, okay, I am into the painting space now, I want to enter the deep cleaning space, right? I want to double down on the waterproofing space. So these will be directional based on the business goals. And this will be an area where the product team needs to be like do a lot of customer validation, problem discovery exercises, so that the later ones are moved into the next and the now ones. So hope I made sense in
Of course. I like how you pick up my random question, structure the answer, then bring down to the conclusion. Right? I like really like that part. Okay. Uh, so we talked about the planning part. Talking about numbers, I wanted to ask you, like, what is the smallest organization, number of people organization you have worked with? Smallest team, organization, right?
so
Smallest organization you have worked with.
So smallest organization, it has been lot in a sense that I would say when we were in the Better India, we were like around 30 to 40 people, pretty much sitting in one office. So there have been lot of experiences, in fact. But yeah, I think that was where the smallest uh, set of people were
Sure.
there.
Maybe why I have randomly asked that question, because I have worked alone also. I have worked, as a founder. I have worked in 5 member teams, 3 member teams, and also like 100 and 200 people. So, but yeah, not like make my trip. That's a scale I aspire to be somewhere. Somewhere, I can visualize what is going to happen in like very next maybe quarters, or very long term
See, at
planning.
any scale, your job is always to increase that, right? So like the base would, like, definitely it's great to see or experience that kind of scale, but at the end of the day, in from like if you look at it from a different perspective, right, a company like Make My Trip would already have solved a lot of low hanging fruits and the obvious ones, right? So over there, as you have to really look at what we can then do next to further enhance this.
Part, right?
So yeah, so it's good and bad both of having such kind of role versus a startup environment. And yeah, I think startup is a different beast altogether.
Of course. You also talked about your preferred mode of now, next, and later, right? Uh, that's another good part of being some experience, because recently I started understanding my preferences, like a working mode, right? Sometimes when the project starts without a goal, next time I don't think I will be doing that ever. It recently happened in like maybe 1 year ago. So it was like one of the organization I joined. A random project came to me like on maybe the first week. Even after 3 months, I was like, why did I pick it up without that clear defined goal? It was always a pain. So somewhere it happened. Uh,
I think that's one of the first questions as a PM, right? That why do you want to do it? Why now? What's the business goal behind this? But yeah, I understand definitely there are time constraint at times. You have to just make sure
Deliver
that
it.
things are, yeah.
Deliver it yesterday. No, it's not like you have to start it today and finish it tomorrow. That's how you want to do it. It's like, okay, I could not even ask the questions. That moment was like, okay, you want me to do something by tomorrow. I don't know if I will understand what I'm doing, but I will deliver it.
Yeah, but the,
It will.
the the caveat here is that if you deliver something, the job is not done, right? As a PM,
Of course.
your job is to deliver the results.
Right.
And if there are certain stakeholder which is really, and I understand there are business priorities and there are things that uh, you know uh, people at certain positions would have a better context of, but I think challenging the stakeholders, and even at times someone up your hierarchy has always worked for me, to be frank. And at a certain point, right, even the other person should be either they are like really done, like really deep into the problem and really know, and they are able to explain you and convince you, get you on board, or else at some point they would also say that, okay, yeah, is it something which is like the big problem right now, is it like going to have a huge impact, or is it something that is more like a wishful thinking. And data is, I think data is the best friend, getting certain data, getting certain insights. And again, I think AB is one super super critical tool here. If there's definitely a lot of people, a lot of opinions, why not do a quick it won't be quick, but it would at least you can start with an AB, and at some point you would have the data speaking for itself, right? That okay, who is what needs to be done.
So I'm thinking about that story once and again every time, and at every point when you're saying, this should be done. Uh, so I was thinking, like, why I was not able to ask a lot of questions at that moment. Why I was not able to control that outcome of that event. Right? Felt like um, I could not understand the dependencies of the end goal required. It's like most of them dependent teams, right? Some of them maybe knew it somewhere. The the conditions applied did not come out very clearly. I would say my communication might have failed somewhere, right? Yeah, at random. That's about it. So I would ask maybe one last question about how your preference is about working with other product managers.
Preferences in a sense.
You know, working style, right, or communication styles. It's like, or maybe I'm assuming. So you have managed product managers also before,
Yes.
right? Um, so how do I frame my question clearly? Let's assume I have to create a prompt to get an answer. Um, maybe so preferences.
So,
Let's talk about the preferred tools, right? Maybe. So, which of the data analytics tools you have used, and which one do you prefer?
mm, so you want to understand like what are the data analytics tools, right? That I've
Yeah,
used
yeah,
and I
yeah.
would recommend.
Yes, yes.
Uh, I think on the data analytics front, again, it's depends on the kind of company that you're working with, what stage they are at, and what are the different caveats, right? And again, starting with the startup environment, right? I think Google Analytics is one great tool, free to use, and really provides at least a lot of high level insights. And at a relatively mature company, I think the Adobe Omniture is one good tool that is available, and Mixpanel is another good tool where you can really get those cuts of data, and you really can get into those nuances. So yeah, these are the top three tools actually.
You talked about Adobe what?
Adobe Omniture.
Okay, I've not heard about it yet, so I don't know where I'm living right now.
Yeah. So, like Omnature was being used at Make My Trip.
Sure,
So yeah, it's also another tool where you can really get into the nuances of the data, really get a lot of cuts into the data.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
One of my recent experiences when we were using one of the analytics tools, and we were thinking about starting using another one. The conversation, to uh, understand the market available tools and do the uh, closure of the deal. So it took almost more than 3-4 months. Like it almost did not go anywhere. At the end, somebody decided that it's not. We are not going to use any of the tools right now. I was like, okay, I spent almost 3 and 4 months just to bring someone on board and get the deal done so that I could use better data. Without the access to the data, I feel like handicapped because there is data. I should be able to use it today.
I
If
think in that case, you should definitely go for the Google Analytics because easy to use, easy to set up, and free. So at
right,
least like even if you want to have another tool in parallel, why not have Google Analytics right away?
can it be used for email campaigns?
No, I don't think
All right.
it's more for the website analytics.
I was working on the email marketing in that recent role by chance. So luckily, I got a chance to explore new paradigm from there. But yeah, that's all. I think we've been long into the session, so
Yeah.
maybe some feedback for me, some thoughts to share
No, no,
about this.
it was really great talking to you, and I especially like the idea of having like a like that water bottle, right? Where there's an alarm with the water bottle. I would definitely want to be the one of the first customers.
Sure.
Yeah, and apart from that, also it was great, candid conversation.
Perfect. Perfect. So the product name is I am Drinkbot. IamDrinkbot.com. The product will be live, available in few months. Still not available, but yeah, here we are. Um, so thanks to you, Utsav. Thanks for joining. It was a great time. This was the eighth session in my 30 conversation series, and let's see how it goes. I'm going to have another session tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.
Great, great, Hari. Thanks for
All right.
calling me. Take
Thanks.
care. Bye.
Okay, guys, thank you. See you tomorrow morning. Ta-da.